that you joined with today is going to be the link you'll use every day. So that's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 8 p.m. Saturday, it'll be 9 a.m. So we'll start off our day with the challenge on Saturday. So you get me like back to back, you know, you get me Friday night and then first thing Saturday morning. So hopefully by then we'll be such good friends you want to. When we're in these meetings, while I'm teaching or whatever, I'm just going to ask you keep your mics muted. But there are going to be times when I'm going to say, okay, now I want some feedback. And that's when I want you to unmute yourself. And I just want lots of feedback, because one of the things that's super interesting about emotional eating is many of us think we're the only ones. And so yet it's like everybody struggles with it on some level. So we want to make sure that everyone feels comfortable. This needs to be an honest place. If you are familiar with me at all, I am a very down-to-earth person. I tell it as it is, and I'm super straight up and honest. So you're not going to get any like fluff from me. This is like the real deal, rubber hits the road. So yeah, it's kind of the way I roll. Interestingly, recently I found out that my personality type is one of the ones that makes really good coaches, because we tell you how it is and then we kick you in the butt to make sure you get it done. So I know Cindy and I share a similar personality type, and so between all of us, we'll hopefully get a few things accomplished this week. All right, so that's a little bit of the housekeeping. What we're going to talk about today is really in day one. It's a very critical part of understanding. We can't actually talk about day 2 and day 3 until we talk about today. And so because today is so foundational, I'm going to say this every single time. Some of you have purchased the VIP bonus, which means you get to come back and you're going to get the videos, which you can keep forever. But this information is like super important to understand how your body works when it comes to things like cravings and emotional eating. And so if you are going to throughout these next 4 days, if you're going to be missing a section, I recommend you go and purchase that VIP bonus so that you can come back later and watch it all again. And like, because I don't know about you, but if you only plan on emotionally eating for 4 days and then you think you're going to have it beat, chances are not. So real life happens. So go ahead and check out that VIP bonus if you want. And we'll talk a bit more about that. But the other thing that's super important about that VIP bonus is that it includes a discovery call with me. And the reason that is important is because many of us have extenuating circumstances. So for a long time, I think I figured it out the other day, I think it was 19 years, I was a homeschool mom. And let me tell you, if there's anyone who needs to emotionally eat, it's a homeschool mom. So you two, are you homeschooling, any of you? Okay, so you know what that's all about. So there's that, but then there's things like there's death in the family, or we're moving, or whatever. And you might want ideas on how do I cope through this right now? And we won't necessarily have time to go through everybody's specific situations in the sessions. So I want to make sure that if you have like a very specific question, that you get the time for that. So that's what that VIP bonus is for as well. The other reason that's important is because I am going to be talking about a lot of science, and we are going to be covering some other things throughout the week that you might go, I didn't quite get that, and I want to get more information, or I want a little bit more like throughout this time. So that's what that VIP bonus is for. Because I want to make sure that whoever does want some of that special one-on-one time gets that with me. All right. So before we go any farther, are there any questions yet? Now, just so you know how to use your, at the very bottom, you should have a reactions area, and you can hit the button that says raise your hand. And it looks like, can you see it on my screen? There's a little hand that comes up. Go ahead and do that. And then I will notice, hopefully, I realized yesterday I am the last person. Oh, there, Becky raised your hand. Good job. And Debbie did, super. And that way, I realized yesterday I'm the least observant person in the world. I didn't notice a building had been built until yesterday, and someone said to me they started that 7 months ago. And I go there every day. Like, I don't know how I missed it, but anyway. So if I miss it, then just lower it and put it on and off and on and off, and I will see it. Okay, Becky, do you have a question right now? Okay, then go ahead and lower your hand. So you go back to that same spot and click lower hand.
I can't find mine.
You can't find yours. Are you on a phone or a laptop?
Laptop.
On the bottom of your screen, there should be like an emoji looking thing that says reactions.
Yeah, but it doesn't show a hand raise. It's a clapping and a thumbs up.
There's another place it could be. Go into where it says chat or participants, depending on the brand that you are using.
Okay.
And you might see it in either participants or chat.
But the raise hand might be just below that. It might not be up at the top. But
yeah, it might be at the bottom of that.
But a bottom of the reactions. But it might not be.
So do you see where you can add your emojis? Pam? Okay, let me see if there's another spot here.
Sorry, I'm totally, like, I've got the reactions, but it's just like an emoji where you like or you love or you thumbs up or whatever.
Yes, and in that spot at the bottom of that, there should be an area where you can raise a hand. If it doesn't, then just do an emoji that I can recognize.
Like on the chat?
Or just speak or just unmute.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sorry.
Hi, Valerie, welcome here. We've just gotten started and I just was doing over a bit of housekeeping rules. So yeah, while I'm teaching, I'll get you guys to keep it on mute, but we will have lots of conversation today. So we're gonna go for it. All right. So today we are gonna talk about like what I think is the most important part to establish you physiologically to be able to conquer and break this cycle. Now, let me just back up a little bit, and I want to tell you a little bit about myself and why I am passionate about this. Some of you know me, Becky knows me, and Pam knows me from my 400+ pound years. I think Cindy only met me after like now since I've lost weight, but back in the day when I was more than 400 pounds, I actually didn't even realize, I thought I was eating healthy. I was on every diet under the sun. I did everything that I thought that I should do. People would tell me, dietitians told me, nutritionists told me, but nobody, and I would be given diets and they mostly would work for a very little time, and then I would stop losing weight, and then I would start gaining weight, or I'd get so discouraged from not losing weight that I would just quit altogether. But often where that quit would happen is something would happen in my life, something super stressful. And it could be something as simple as a road trip or a wedding I had to plan, or like it could be happy stress, or it could be negative stress if you are thinking positive, negative. But what would happen is that stress would show up and I would be like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle this. And I would find myself giving myself excuses for all the reasons I needed to eat, why it was good for me. And you know what else? I bought into all kinds of lies. And you may have heard some of these lies yourself. One of them is, if you're craving it, your body needs it. Raise your hand like this, your physical arm, if you have ever heard that said. Yeah. So many people would say, oh, if you're craving it, you must really need it. How many times, yeah, right, you've heard it. How many of you actually believe that craving a Mars bar is truly nutritionally what you need? No, it's not. It's not, but yet we buy into that. And then we tell ourselves these things as we eat whatever it is that we want. And sometimes we even eat things we don't want. So, as I was going through my process for years and years, like decades of trying to lose weight, one of the things nobody ever taught me about was how to deal with emotional eating. They give me a diet plan and send me on my way. And the worst thing that was going to happen with that is that you give me a diet plan and send me on my way. What happens if it doesn't work? What happens if I don't like the food? What happens if I don't lose weight? What happens if life happens and now I fall off the wagon and I'm eating like a crazy person? Nobody ever gave me the tools for that. And nobody ever explained why I was having, why I was craving craving, what do you call it? Like different foods and cravings and things like that. So I was never, ever told how to handle the issue of emotional eating. I'm just having, I think we lost someone here. Hopefully she'll be back. So when I began this new way of eating, one of the things that I was desperately afraid of was, what if I start eating this way and I can't maintain it? Because I didn't want to lose 200 pounds and then gain it all back, because that's what would happen. I would lose 30 pounds, I'd gain 40. I'd lose 50 pounds, I'd gain 60, and I just kept getting fatter and fatter. And half of it was, I didn't know. Is it because the diet doesn't work? Is my body broken? Why is this all happening? Yet nobody was giving me the tools that would manage my brain effectively, that would manage my body, and that would manage my emotions. So that's the basis of where I am now. Now, I can be honest and tell you, I still do make choices to be an emotional eater some days. And some days I do fall off the wagon and I eat emotionally, but it is far and few between. It's not a weekly occurrence. It's not even a monthly occurrence. And this has been now several years. It's not like I just did this last month and now I think I have, the answer. And I used to be very frustrated as a very large woman when somebody had lost 25 pounds and they thought they could tell me how to lose 200. Because losing 25 pounds is very different than losing 200. The length of time that you have to stay faithful to whatever it is you're doing is a lot longer, let me tell you. So as I was going through this process and I was beginning to lose weight, I honestly began to fear, and I would have anxiety about, how am I going to keep this off? And it was about, I would say about the 3-month mark. I'd lost a lot of weight by that point. I'm probably close to 45 or 50 pounds. I lost my weight very quickly at the beginning. And I remember one day standing in the fridge. You guys have done that, right? You open the fridge door and you stand there and you look through everything. And then you're trying to decide, okay, so what do I really want? Sometimes you think that far. Sometimes you just grab whatever is there and whatever's handy. And thankfully, at that point, I didn't have a lot of food in the house that I could eat. And all of a sudden it dawned on me, why am I standing here? I'm not hungry. There's nothing in the fridge that I actually want, but why am I here? And it was at that point, for the first time in my life, that I realized and I could actually feel in my body that I have an emotion here. I am not feeding hunger. I'm not feeding a craving. I am actually standing here to feed my emotions. Well, that's stupid, because if I'm going to feed my emotions aren't going to get fatter. I will get fatter. So I began to study even more about where was the separation, because I didn't have a craving and I wasn't hungry. And because I could actually feel the emotion in my body, I could make a healthy decision. So let's go back to that sort of the onion of this, because there's layers that are super important. And in talking about that, I want to give you another story. And I'm faith-based, I'm a Christian. And so in my life, I have heard from many missionaries, and I've heard from different Christian organizations who've gone into underdeveloped countries, and they have wanted to, share the love of Jesus. They've wanted to share the gospel, whatever it is. And so they go in, and they rarely do they go in with the gospel first. They go in with the needs of the people. For example, they will go into a country with food, or they'll go into a country so that they can feed people, or they'll go into a country with medicine so that they can provide medical care, or they'll go into a country with education so they can educate and teach people to read. And there's always something that they're doing first. In most places, I would say food is one of the first things that they provide. And I want to tell you that the reason they do that is because nobody is going to listen to them, and nobody can do what they want them to do, or even respect them enough to hear what they have to say, if their bellies are hungry. And this is what's happening in your body. Your brain is hungry. And so it sends you to the fridge, it sends you to the pantry, and it makes you go for food. You go on a hunt for food. And you may say to your body, oh, you need the gospel of salad, or you need the gospel of a really good bowl of fruit, or you need something, but yet your brain is not happy. And so it's not going to want the salad, and it's not going to want what you think might be healthy, or what you've been trained to think is healthy. It's not going to want to go there, because your brain is making a demand. Just like in the underdeveloped countries, these people or children or families, their bellies, they are starving. So they want nutrition. So they're going to wait for nutrition. In your body, your brain is what is begging for nutrition. Now, Cindy knows the answer to this. I don't know who else does. So Cindy, I would like you to stay muted. But I want to ask you, what is your brain made of? Unmute yourself. And I want to know, what is the main ingredient in your brain? The actual gray matter that's in your skull. Do you know what it's made of? Go ahead and guess, because I had no clue when I started.
Water.
Water. Good guess. Anyone else?
Well, I was going to say fat.
You were going to say fat. Good try. Anyone else? Oh, come on. Don't be shy. Okay, I'll give it to you. Pam is the closest, actually, but it's even more specific than fat. It is made of fat, but it's a very specific kind of fat. And I want you to know that it's a fat that we have been made to be afraid of. The type of fat that your brain is made of is called cholesterol. Raise your hand if that surprises you. Yeah. So your brain is made up of cholesterol, and that's the main part of it. So what happens is, when we are fat depleted, our brain is going to start demanding fat for it to be happy. Now, let me take you on a little bit of a history lesson. Back in the 60s and then 70s, there was a new phenomenon for dieting. You may have lived through it if you're as old as I am. You may have lived through it. Actually, I think maybe only Cindy and I may have lived through it, but that was the low fat craze. So everything was like, oh, if you want to lose weight, eat less fat, because if you eat less fat, then you're going to have less fat on your body. That seemed to make sense to marketers, to food marketers. And so they began to offer low fat everything. We moved from butter to margarine. We moved from like full fat milk and full fat sour cream and full fat cottage cheese. Everything was low fat or light or fat free. And we did that in our baked goods. We did that in all of these things. And we began to notice a change. One of the changes that was first to happen is that diabetes began to go on the rise. And so what happened is, as diabetes grew, we noticed that there was another problem that was coming up in blood work, and that was high cholesterol. And so what the answer that the marketing community, some medical communities came up with was, well, if we're having high blood sugar, then what we need to do is get rid of the cholesterol, because now we have a cholesterol problem. So not only are we going to make everything fat-free, but we're going to get rid of all saturated fats. We're going to get rid of all the cholesterol, and we are going to just give our body as little fat as possible and zero cholesterol. Now, when you give your body zero cholesterol, you are not feeding your brain. When you give your body zero fat, you are not feeding your brain. And your brain is constantly working. Your brain is working even when you're sleeping. It manages your hormones. It manages your activity, your brain function. It manages your gut. It manages your heart, all the nerve synapses that happen in your body. Your brain does all of it. So your brain is constantly needing energy. If you are not providing it fat, it goes into depletion. When it goes into depletion, you know what's going to happen? Your brain's going to have some inflammation, and you're going to start to get cravings. You're going to start to get cravings because your brain is going to be asking for fat. And this is where we ended up giving ourselves an even bigger problem. Because when our brain started asking for more food, we would give it food, but we were giving it fat-free, cholesterol-free food. And so what happens then is your body, what it has to do is it has to produce its own cholesterol. So now we've increased our blood sugar, and we are now increasing our cholesterol production on our own. Our cholesterol levels go up, and we need to do this so that our brain can function. But now we're at risk of all kinds of other diseases. And so we've created a problem for our brain. So what happened? Now let's just keep going. We now know 50 years later that we have an epidemic of dementia and Alzheimer's. Where does that disease start? That disease starts in the brain. And we now know that low fat and fat-free diets and diets that are high in sugar are strong contributing factors to Alzheimer's and dementia and other neurological diseases, including mental health issues such as depression and anxiety and other things. They are definite contributing factors proved by science. Now, what they have also noticed is if we go backwards and we take out, we add back the full fat foods, and we take out the low fat, and we take out the artificial parts of this, and we put back in healthy fats, we can actually regenerate and bring health back to our brains. The most surprising thing, if you want to do a test, on this, is that your brain is going to craves fat so much that if one day you are standing at the checkout store, well, this probably wouldn't work on the checkout store. Well, mine depends what you carry in your purse. You probably don't carry in your purse what I carry in my purse. Let's just put it that way. But if you're like standing in your kitchen, let's say, and you're standing in front of, leftover chocolate birthday cake, and you have this desire to have some, if you at that moment stop, you don't take the chocolate cake, but you literally take a tablespoon of butter and you eat it. You can melt it, you can drink it, you can swallow it whole. I don't care how you do it, but you give your body a tablespoon of butter, saturated fat. Your craving will be gone in minutes because your brain got what it asked for. It actually doesn't want the chocolate cake. It might, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more tomorrow, but what it actually needs is it needs the nutrition first. So when we give our brain the nutrition on a regular basis, you are going to find that your cravings just drop way, 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 way down. Not only that, your hunger levels are going to be going down, because the truth of the matter is your body is not as hungry as it demands of you. The reason that we sometimes feel hungry is because our body is in a nutrition or a nutrient deprived state. Okay. So when you deprive your body of nutrition, at some point it's going to just beg for anything. Just give us something. And you'll give it something, and you'll give it that chocolate cake. It's going to get that smidgen of fat that's in there. And then it's going to ask for more and for more and for more. And this is where those cravings can really get out of hand, because you've given your brain a taste, but not enough. So fat is actually like a majorly important part of giving your brain what it needs, the food it needs, the nutrition it needs, so that you can now give it information. Does that kind of make sense? Raise your hand if you sort of followed that science. If it made sense in your brain. Okay, good stuff. All right. So one of the things that's very countercultural, but if you do your research, if you're a researcher, I'm a researcher, so look it up, figure it, if you don't believe me, just look this up. But when you are adding fat to your diet on a daily basis, especially on an empty stomach, saturated fat, okay, and I'll give you some ideas of what that is. When you are going to give your body fat, your brain is actually going to start to relax. You will naturally feel less stress. You're going to naturally feel way fewer cravings. You are naturally not going to be as hungry, because the demand, so I asked you before if you'd heard about that, like you're going to crave, you only crave what you need. Yeah, you don't crave the chocolate bar. I mean, you crave the chocolate bar. Your body doesn't need the chocolate bar. What your body needs is the fat. It needs the fat to make it all work. So when you take that fat and you feed it, it doesn't have to be tons. Like, I'm not talking about like, don't eat a cup of fat. That's not where we're going. We're not going there with that, right? But you're going to give it the fat that it needs, especially on an empty stomach. You're going to be feeding your brain, and it is shocking how much change that makes as you go through your day. One of the things that I noticed was I was eating at that time a much more restricted diet than I am now, but I choose to restrict my food because I also want to restrict my cravings. I want to maintain I have no inflammation in my body. I want to maintain that. I want to maintain my mental health, my sleep. I want to maintain healthy bowels. So I am very careful with what I eat, but I am also very careful to make sure that I'm adding enough fat to my diet. So in the protocol that I'm teaching, and you'll hear more about the protocol that I teach, it is not a diet. I don't ever teach a diet. What I teach is how to feed your body. And every single person that has ever been through my program eats differently within a few weeks. Cindy, I just want to ask you, Cindy has been in one of my programs. How many weeks did it take before the people in your group were eating completely different food? Was it 4 weeks or 5 weeks?
Well, I think it was like your 6-week program, but like,
yeah, but
like
they were already different.
Pardon me?
But we were already eating differently by about week 5, right? Week 4 or 5 of the plan.
Like differently.
Like, I know that one of them couldn't eat any pork.
Oh yeah, like oh yeah, when you started changing things in.
Yeah.
I think it was week 3 or 4.
Yeah. So like right early on, the protocol changes because it's based on your body. Thank you, Cindy. So one of the things
what I
that
need
one
is
of the
different
things
than
that
what other
is,
people need.
sorry, pardon me.
What I need was different from what other people need.
Yeah, everybody needs something completely different. Everybody's brain is in a different place. Everybody's gut is in a different place. And when you are trying to heal your own body, manage your brain and manage your gut, manage your emotions. You are going to be eating something different than other people. So this idea that one diet fits everyone really makes no sense at all. And as we go through, as I go through and teach about things throughout the next few days, you're going to notice that even the things that have happened to you in your life, whether it's trauma, car accidents, I mean, it could be even lots of moving from place to place. It could be a death that was super important to you, of someone who was super important to you. Any of these things affect our stress levels and affect our hormones and can deplete us or cause damage at some part in our physiology. When that happens, we actually need to recover and heal that part before we can move on. If we don't, we can continue to cause damage. Now, let's say you're feeding your brain fat, okay? Your brain is going to be much happier and you're going to be able to make much better decisions. Why? Because your brain is no longer concerned about, I need to keep my nutrition up. I need to keep my nutrition up. So what happens then is, so let me go back. When your brain is deprived, it's also going to be inflamed. So many of us forget that when your body has inflammation, so you've got like inflammation in your hands, inflammation in your feet, maybe you've got sore joints, that might be a sign of inflammation. If you struggle with headaches, that might be a sign of inflammation. If you're ever bloated, that would be a sign of inflammation. There's so many signs of inflammation. But what happens is you might think, oh, my hands are swollen this morning, I have some inflammation. You never ever, the way God designed you is you don't get all your inflammation in one spot. Your whole body experiences inflammation. So if you are experiencing inflammation in any one part of your body, you can be guaranteed that your brain also is experiencing inflammation. And one way to reduce that, and you need to do more than one, but one significant way to reduce that inflammation is to give it nutrition, and that is with the fat. Our brain needs the fat. If we are not giving it, our body is going to create that additional cholesterol. Now, you've probably heard that there's good cholesterol and bad cholesterol. And as far as what you put into your body, there is no such thing as good or bad. Your body needs all of the cholesterol. There's no part of your body or part of the fat system that when God designed you that didn't somehow have a part to play. So there is, in my opinion, there's no such thing as good cholesterol or bad cholesterol, unless there are other markers, which we could talk about another time if you're interested in the science behind that. However, when you are giving your body healthy cholesterol, the kinds of cholesterol that are good to ingest would be animal fats that harden. That's an easy way to think about it. So any kind of animal fat that hardens, that'd be butter, bacon fat, if you like bacon fat. It would be tallow, pork lard, if you're a fan of lard. These are animal fats that harden. When it hardens, you know it has cholesterol in it, and that's what your brain really, really, really wants. If you, for some reason, do not want to have animal fat, the next best option, if your body tolerates it, is coconut oil that is in its hardened state, that has a hardened state. You can buy coconut oil that stays liquid all the time. You don't want that one. You would want the coconut oil that gets hard. And so those are the most important for your brain, okay? Secondary, the second most important kind of fats to add would be like the liquidy coconut oil or the liquidy avocado oil, liquidy olive oil. Those would be the next three that would be better. And you'd want them as little refined as possible, because you want to make sure that they are not going to be, you're not going to be ingesting any toxins and that kind of thing. Because what you're doing is you're feeding your brain. So because your brain wants this so desperately, it is literally going to take the nutrition straight from your gut to your brain. And if there's a lot of toxins in there, you're ingesting that too. So when you are de-inflaming or deflaming, I don't even know what the right word is, when you're taking the inflammation out of your brain, you're going to notice some changes. You're going to notice some changes in your sleep. You're going to notice some changes in how happy you feel. You're going to notice that you're not hungry when you were before. And you're suddenly going to notice, oh, I want to eat, but I'm not hungry. And when you get to that point where you are actually able to distinguish the difference between, okay, now I'm hungry and now I am not hungry, I just want to eat, that is a significant shift that allows you to say, okay, now I am dealing with an emotional craving. Many of us attempt to deal with emotional eating by stopping to snack. We just say, okay, no more snacking. I'm not going to do any more emotional eating. I'm going to stop snacking. How many of you have ever tried that? Raise your hand. No more snacking. Raise your hand if you've said that. Yeah. No more snacking. There we go. And it doesn't go very well, right? It lasts a very short time. And different things come up, like potluck. Well, now not so much in COVID, but like potlucks and evening and movies and coffee break and all these things come up, and we want to have a snack. One of the doctors that I was training with when I went through all of this, he says every single snack is an emotional event. Think about that. Every snack is an emotional event. Because if it's not an emotional event, that means we're truly hungry and we're eating for the purposes of nutrition. If you are going to sit down and eat for the purposes of nutrition, would you sit down and eat a sleeve of cookies? Not usually. not if you're trying to be healthy in any way, shape, or form. But what happens is we begin to believe the cravings, and we don't want to handle the emotions, and we are afraid of feeding our brain, or we don't know that we need to feed our brain. So feeding our brain is number one. If you don't feed your brain first, it's going to be very hard to separate between what is my brain actually asking for and what are my emotions demanding of me. And so the first thing we need to do is separate that. So here is part of the challenge. Now, I want you to recognize that when I made this course, I called it Conquer Cravings Challenge, okay? That's because I want to challenge you to do the things that we're talking about and actually put it into practice and see it work. Because if you don't see it work, you're going to finish these 4 days. You're never going to try it. And you're going to go, I still don't know how to do it. So I want you to actually try it, okay? So tomorrow morning, I won't make you do it tonight. You can if you want. I mean, if you're about to snack tonight, so if tonight we close off Zoom and you're heading to the fridge or the pantry, I want you to stop and I want you to grab some saturated fat, some animal fat. How many of you regularly keep animal fat in your house? Okay. Oh, good. Oh, good. We've got animal fat lovers here. Woohoo! That's the way it goes. I recently spoke with someone and was at this person's house and said, hey, do you have any fat? I was like starving and we had a place to go and I wasn't going to be eating for a bit. And I'm like, hey, do you have any butter or anything? And oh, yes, I've got some margarine. Oh, no. That is not saturated fat. So margarine does not count. Neither do anything like canola oil or safflower oil or sesame oil. None of those count, okay? It needs to be really good cholesterol fat. And so believe it or not, we went through my favorite drive-through and picked up a meat patty with a couple packets of butter because that's what I needed. And actually I didn't end up eating the rest of the day because I was no longer hungry. It met all of my needs. So, and I do keep packets of butter in my pocket, in my purse. I'm all out right now. I need to go buy some more. But this is something that you guys can do tonight already. Okay. So have some butter tonight. Now, if you're not going to snack and there's no temptations tonight, then what I'd like you to do is start tomorrow morning before breakfast. How many of you drink coffee? Okay, 3. I can't tell Debbie. I can't tell her hand. Oh, she does. Oh, okay, good. So if you're a coffee drinker, excellent. This is going to be easy. If you're not a coffee drinker, I have a solution for you. If you're a coffee drinker, make yourself your regular coffee and put 1 to 2 tablespoons of butter in there. Blend it up like a big old latte and drink it up. Don't add cream. You won't need cream because the butter is going to be creamy enough. But add some butter to that. And but you have to make sure you blend it. Okay, so if you've got like an immersion blender or something like that, try it because what happens is,
remember unsalted butter?
Yes, I much prefer unsalted butter. You can do lard; it doesn't get as creamy though. But unsalted butter. So I don't know where you live, but if you have to run quickly to the convenience store or grocery store to grab some unsalted butter, do it, or do it first thing in the morning. Unsalted butter. You can do a salt, but it might be a little, if you don't like salty coffee. Drink up that whole cup. You're going to be surprised at how delicious it is. But if you don't blend it, what's going to happen is you're going to end up with a bunch of fats like floating on the top, and that's not yummy. If you don't have unsalted butter at home, then you can try the hardened coconut oil. If you can handle, that's not as powerful in your brain as the butter, but you can try it if that's what you have at home. And I want you to do that tomorrow morning. First thing is have some butter coffee. Now, Pam, you don't drink coffee. So you can do this with buttered water. I would say probably 50% of my clients, even if they drink coffee, do buttered water. And if you do buttered water, you can do it straight up, or you can add some flavor to that if you like. If you have any essential oils, and you can add lemon or whatever. And it's like a warm, creamy, lemony drink. Did you have a question? Oh, I think I can't tell. Okay. So buttered water is another way to do it. So yeah, Pam, do you have a question? I see your hand. But I think she's frozen again. Pam, if you have a question, throw it into the chat, and then I'll try and grab it from the chat. Yeah. Okay, so that's your challenge for first thing tomorrow morning. Then what I want you to do, warm water, blend it up. Yeah, definitely warm, because otherwise it just gets into hard, cold chunks, and that's not yummy. Okay, then what I want you to do is I want you to have your butter drink in the morning, first thing. Then I want you to pay attention to how long does it take before you get hungry? And how long does it take before you start like thinking about food? And you're going to be surprised at how long that little bit of butter is going to take you. It's shocking as you get used to it. I have to be careful now. I used to be able to, I have to be honest, when I was younger and gaining weight and always on diets, my life was controlled by food. And when I say my life was controlled by food, I mean controlled. because I was always counting calories. I was weighing my food. I was measuring my portions. I was planning for my family. I was planning my shopping trips, my meals all the time. They were always, I was trying to figure out what to do and trying to figure out what's healthy, what's not healthy. How do I do all of this? And when I started to pay attention to how many hours in my day were dedicated to thinking about food, it's remarkable. What a waste of time. Now I have the opposite problem. I will have a little bit of fat in the morning, or I'll have a very fatty food because I might make a couple of eggs for myself, and I might make them in a quarter cup of butter or a quarter cup of lard or tallow, and I eat all of it. And then I'm actually not hungry again, and maybe not all day. And I now hardly think about food because my body's not demanding the attention. It doesn't demand the nutrients. And so my brain is actually so much more free. And so my problem now, if I have a problem, would be that it's so easy for me to forget to eat because I'm not craving and I'm not hungry because my body is nutritionally satisfied. Now, some of you may be asking, and this is a real and genuine question, what happens to someone like me or someone like you when we add this much cholesterol to our body? What's going to happen to our cholesterol levels in our blood? And I'll be just straight up honest with you. They're going to go up. Eventually, they're going to go up, and then eventually they're going to come down a little bit, and they're going to get to a healthy level. Let me explain my situation so that you can see from a real life perspective what happens in your body when you begin to change into giving your body nutrients as opposed to giving your body food. And I put food in quotations because a bag of chips is sometimes considered food. My body does not consider that nutrition. So when I'm talking about food for your body, I want nutrition for your body. All right. So when I began, I was eating, like I told you, I was on every diet under the sun. I did keto. I did literally, I could probably name 30 different diets and nutritionists and plans and things that I've been on in my whole life. And I was super unhealthy. I think Pam probably knows my unhealthy years the best, but like literally I would end up in the hospital with infections where I would almost die. I was supposed to have both my knees replaced because they were so damaged and they were so inflamed. I've had so many body parts removed. I've had my gallbladder, my uterus. I've had plantar fascia release. I've had so many surgeries, I think 23 surgeries, because I was always unhealthy. And it got to the point, and I was very, very heavy. I was very fat. And I got to the point where my son said to me, his wife was expecting baby, Mom, you're not going to be able to, we don't want you, we're just wanting to warn you, we don't want you to babysit our child when he's born because you're not healthy enough and we don't want to have to worry about you and our child. And I want to tell you that I was jumping on the trampoline with them yesterday. And that was after I went for a jog in the park because the gyms are closed. And yes, I was jogging on a path and I have not had my knees replaced. Not only that, a few weeks ago, it's probably a few months ago now, I went back to my doctor. I've been watching my lab work all the way through, and my cholesterol did go up, and it sort of stayed at this level that it's at for a while, and then it came back down just slightly, and now it's been here for a while. But what I wanted to know is I was on medications. I was on all kinds of medications, antidepressants. I've tried sleeping pills, anti-anxiety. I've been on thyroid medication since the year 2000. And now, after eating this way, for a long time, I've been having my blood work taken all the way through. I am now on zero medication, and my doctor said I need to run a full blood work because now that you're not on medication, I need to make sure that your hormones are on track, particularly your thyroid, because it's very unusual for a thyroid to heal. Once you're on medication, you can almost never come off of thyroid medication. So I went through and I had all of my blood work done, and let me go back. I also needed to have vitamin B shots. I was on like hundreds of dollars of vitamin supplements every month. And I bought them from these companies that promised all kinds of things. And I came off of that. Now I do take a supplement. I take magnesium bisglycinate, which is very specific. And if you ever have questions about that, you can ask me. But that's the only supplement I take. And I take liver, which is just a food. But when I had my blood work done now, all of my vitamin levels, all of my mineral levels were at normal or better than normal. My thyroid level, 2.0 or less is normal. I was at 1.72. My thyroid is healthier now than when I was in my 20s. My cholesterol level is still raised, but I don't have high blood pressure. I don't have insulin issues. I have no blood sugar issues. And she ran me through what's called the Framingham score. And that's a score that they put all of your blood work and all of your lab work through to assess you for risk for other diseases and things like that. And guess what? My Framingham score brought me 5 years younger than my actual age. That is amazing. And she said, what we know now is that having high cholesterol has zero impact on your risk of any stroke or heart disease, unless you also have hypertension and high blood sugar, so blood sugar issues, so diabetes or pre-diabetic. If you don't have these, it doesn't matter how high your cholesterol goes, it'll never impact you as far as risk. So if you're worried about this, there you go. There's some information. Go ahead and research that if you don't want to, if you're not sure about that, or I can.
Carla, and there's some, Pam has some stuff in the chat.
Okay, I will get there. Thank you. So what we're going to, so anyway, so I don't want you to be worried about, oh, what's going to happen if I'm going to add fat to my diet. I'll just tell you straight out, it's going to raise it. But if you continue to move along the path towards health, reducing your risk of diabetes, reducing your risk of hypertension, that little bit higher cholesterol is not going to make a difference. But the other thing that's going to be interesting about that high cholesterol is it's your good, what your doctor's going to call good cholesterol, that's going to go up. It's not just your bad cholesterol. So your body, the way God created your body is to need cholesterol and to need fat. Okay. So let me check the chat for some questions. Okay. Boiling water. Yeah. Okay. I'm having a question. Most of the time I'm not hungry. Don't eat till about 2 p.m. Should I still be doing the buttered water? Yes. Yes. That's perfect, Pam. Thanks for asking. So if you are normally not hungry in the morning, that's also a problem. That's also a problem because your body should need to be replenished in the morning because you should have been fasting during the night. So if you are not fasting during the night, that's why we call it breakfast. You're breaking a fast. So technically you should be fasting overnight and your body should be empty. If your body is not empty in the morning and it is still digesting, you're not going to be hungry. What that's an indication of is an unhealthy digestive system. So you want to make sure you're emptying so your body is able to empty, and then you're going to be hungry in the morning. So I would say my recommendation would be, and again, I'm giving information here, I'm giving you education. You guys can take the challenge or you don't have to. My recommendation would be still start your day with fat and then see how it goes throughout the day. You may find if you are, we can talk about this a bit more, but this may affect your bowels before it affects your hunger. And that's another good sign. We're going to talk a little bit more about bowels tomorrow, but when you are eating more fat, you naturally are going to have smoother, easier bowels. And the average North American has, okay, you can't answer, Cindy. How many pounds of poop do you think you have in your bowels for the average person?
12.
12. Somebody, I think that was Debbie, says 12. Okay, any other guesses?
I was gonna go less and say 5.
5, okay. Becky, do you have a guess?
8.
8, good guess. Valley, you're the last one. Do you have a guess? I'm not sure if Valley is there. All right, the answer is 17. Average is 17 pounds of poop in your bowels on any given day. Let me tell you something, that's not healthy. That's not good for you. So as you're adding the fat to your diet in the morning, especially on an empty stomach, it's going to help eliminate some of that. And eventually we would talk about adding magnesium that would help with that, and there's a specific kind. But yes, so that's why I would still, Pam, add that fat in the morning, because if you're not hungry later, that is indicative of your digestive system and you'll want to empty out sooner. So that's why I would say still go for it. Good. All right. Now we are running close to our hour here, right about at our hour. And I want to make sure that if there's any questions that you have a chance to ask those questions right now before I give you a little hint about what else we're going to talk about tomorrow. Any other questions? Okay, Becky, go ahead.
Is this something similar to keto?
Is what similar to keto?
Like this lifestyle or this, what you're talking about?
Keto, let me explain. That's a very good question. Let me explain what keto is. Keto is short for the word ketogenic. Ketogenic is, I saw your question, Valley. I'll answer it in a second. Ketogenic is anytime your body is producing ketones, okay? So when your body is producing ketones, you are often losing weight. Not always, but you are often losing weight. You can lose weight without ketones, but usually when you are losing ketones, you are ketogenic. Now, the problem with this idea of is it keto is that there are some people who are in a state of ketosis, or their body is getting rid of ketones when they have 100 grams of carbs a day. And like my son, he can have 85 grams of carbs in a day and drop the pounds like nobody's business because he's dropping ketones. So for him, keto is 85 grams because that puts him in ketosis. Other bodies, myself, I can't eat that many carbs. I need to keep my grams of carbs under 10 or I start gaining weight, because that's where my body goes into ketosis. So every single body is different. So when you see a product, this is hand lotion, but let's say you see a chocolate bar that says keto friendly, it means nothing. It's completely fad, trendy marketing, because all that says is that it has less carbs than its other counterpart, than the regular store counterpart. That's all it says. Because you can find a keto chocolate bar, for example, that might have 23 grams of carbs. But if you do not produce ketones like if you stop producing ketones at 10 grams, then you're not in ketosis, which means for you, this is not keto. So keto is, first of all, a really bad term that people have. They're selling it as a diet, and it's not a diet. Keto is short for the word ketogenic, which means something, a state that your body is when it loses ketones, or when you are in ketosis, is that's when you're losing ketones. So I don't like to use the word ketones or keto or ketosis, because you could actually be like losing weight on a vegetarian diet, which is not keto at all, and you would still be producing ketones. So the way that keto is promoted is really a big fat lie. Hate to say it to you, but I told you, I shoot straight and tell you the truth. So no, it's not. However, it doesn't matter what diet you're going to be on. If you're going to be losing weight, you are probably going to be losing ketones, which means that if you want to call it keto, but that's not what the world around us is selling. So the world around us is selling you a kind of diet and a bunch of products. They're making thousands and thousands of dollars on products called keto, and they're making you pay through the nose for keto foods that are really a waste. I don't believe in that. I believe God created our bodies to digest food and real food, and that we don't need all the fake stuff to be healthy. That's my own personal opinion. So no, I actually don't teach a diet, and I don't ever give a diet. So I had someone else say, oh, do you teach carnivore? Well, no, I mostly eat carnivore, but that's not what I teach. There was someone else on here just shortly before Cindy was here. She's been in my plan. She is not carnivore. She's a completely different, every single person that I teach you what works for you. What I do in my plan, in my weight loss coaching and in my health coaching, because not everyone in my coaching plan needs to lose weight. Some of them join my plan just to get healthy. And so they may have, actually I have someone who joined just recently who said, I don't have any weight to lose, but I know this person over here who got way healthier, and I have the same health condition, and I want to join to clear up that health condition. And so that works fine. If you have no weight to lose, you would lose maybe 5 pounds, 8 pounds at the beginning, and then you'd come back to your normal healthy weight. What I teach is how to figure out how to clean out your body, reset your body, rest your body, detox your body, and then we test foods so that you know what's healthy for your body. So like you heard me say with Cindy, by the time we were 4 or 5 weeks into the group program that she was in at the time, by the time we were a few weeks in, everybody's eating different things, because you're not following a diet. You're following your body and how God created you personally. So I can eat more than some of my clients, and some of my clients can eat a lot more than me. So it's not a diet, if that makes sense. So you're asking me if it's keto. Well, when we're losing weight, we're all in ketosis. So what should I say? Yes, but no, if that makes sense. Does that make sense, Becky? Does that answer your question? All right, now I'm going to check a couple questions in the chat. All right, how many times a day should I be eating? No, the extra fats won't bung you up, Pam, not at all. If anything, you might get diarrhea. Okay, Valley, how many times a day should you be eating? That is, first of all, I would need to ask a few more questions before I would like straight up give you an answer on that. The true and honest answer to that is when you actually have hunger pangs and your stomach is requesting nutrition. However, people like me who have emotional eating issues, we don't know when that is at this point. We don't have a way to determine what those signals are. I actually, in my course, there's a whole segment when we go through the program where I teach people who have been able to isolate emotional eating and hunger pangs. I teach you how to learn when your body actually needs food and when it doesn't. So my easy answer for you would be at this point is if you're eating a good amount of fat, so a lot of fat would be like, that's your number one food group is fat. And then I would say protein, and then anything like vegetables after that, or fruit or whatever. And then if you're going to take any grains or starches, it would be after that. So it'd be like fat, protein, vegetables, fruit, and then starches. that would be the order and the amounts. So they're sort of in that pyramid. So I would say definitely start with your fats in the morning, and then, give yourself about an hour and have some breakfast, and like, don't overdo it. And then have lunch, and then have supper. And then instead of having a snack, if you really feel like you need something, have some more fat. And there's some really fun ways to add fat if you want a snack. At this stage of the game, if all you're doing is adding fat to curb a craving, you can mix some butter and some coconut oil, a bit of cocoa, and like I would use erythritol if you would want to use a sweetener of any kind, and blend that together, whip it up, throw it into an ice cube tray, and that makes a very delicious like chocolate. It melts quite quickly, so eat it quickly or you're going to have very greasy fingers. But if you absolutely feel like you need to have something like sweet, that's what I would recommend. There are other ways that we can make that, but for this particular situation, that would be something that I would recommend. Does that make sense, Valley? Can you just, if you can't open your video or unmute, just write it in the chat. But if you can unmute or video, that would be okay. Super, excellent. Yeah. So at this stage of the game, with emotional eating, I never recommend reducing the amount of food you're eating. What I recommend is cutting out the snacks and replacing it with fat. Starting your day with fat and replacing snacks with pure animal fat, saturated animal fat. Any other questions? Okay, go for it. Becky, unmute. Let's go for it.
Would you recommend anything for carbs, like cutting out flour or?
Well, let's talk about that. Like, that's coming up in a couple days.
Okay.
But first, your brain needs to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
First, your brain needs to be happy. If you think about it like this, Becky, I know you have children. I don't know if Valley has children, but if you are going to take a toy away from a child, think about a 2-year-old. You just take that toy away. What are you going to have? You're okay. Oh, 4 children, Valley. Excellent. Just post in the chat how old they are. I'd love to know. If you just take a toy away from a 2-year-old, what are you going to get? A temper tantrum. Absolutely. You're going to get a temper tantrum. Now, if you offer that child something else and you come with their favorite toy or their blankie or a treat, you can almost take that other thing away without them noticing, right? You replace it because you're giving them what they want instead. I'm going to start talking about your brain a little bit more as a toddler starting tomorrow. Your brain is actually like a toddler that's going to throw temper tantrums. So you first need to bring it what it wants, and then you can start removing things. So I would not recommend removing anything until you are making your brain happy, unless you're under the care of a very specific program or guidance. Does that make sense? Because literally and we'll talk about this more in the next few days, but your brain is super powerful and it can do a lot of scary things if you take stuff away from it. So we don't want to do that. We want to make it happy first. So give it fat and make your brain happy. And then, and pay attention, Becky, you might notice as you are, as you're eating more fat, that you may not be craving some of those carbs that you were craving before. So pay attention to that, because when you feed your brain what it wants, it's going to ask for more of that because it's going to be happy. So pay attention to that. Valley, wow, 3 teenage boys and a 12-year-old daughter. 12-year-old daughter sounds to me like hormones. So you have a busy household, and so lots of reasons to emotionally eat. So I can understand that. I had 4 children in 5 years, and I felt like I had teenagers forever. And now I have all my grandchildren close together in age. So I can imagine how fun this is going to be when they all hit, teenage years. Wow. Good stuff. Any other questions before we move on? So I can't see Debbie. So I'm hoping, Debbie, you can just pop in the chat if you have any questions. So tomorrow we are moving on to another part of how your brain works and another very key part about what is happening in your body. And so I'm really hoping that you'll come with a fatty brain tomorrow. So before you come tomorrow to your evening session, I would love it if you could have some fat before you come, because I'm going to be giving you some information that may make you emotional. And if you've had some fat, you'll be better able to handle it. So there you go. That's a little bit about tomorrow. And I just gave you a little hint about something else, and that having fat in your brain and in your body can actually help you emotionally. So tomorrow, if you can have some fat before you come, that'd be super. All right. Well, we're gonna sign off at this point. Thank you so much. What your challenge for today is not only to have fat instead of snacking and have fat tomorrow morning, fat before that. I'd like you to go into the Facebook group and do another live video, and I'd like you to put down 1 or 2 things that you learned that really stood out to you from today, that you were like, whoa, I had no idea, or okay, I'm going to try this, or make a commitment, or take a video of drinking your buttery coffee, whatever it is you want. I'd love to see what your takeaways are from today, and it would encourage everyone else in the group as well. All right, give me a thumbs up. You're going to do it? Super, excellent. All right, so that's it for today. I look forward to seeing, oh good, Debbie says yes, super. All right, I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow, 8 p.m., same link. You should get a video email reminder about an hour before the session begins. All right, see you guys. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have a great night.
Thank you.